Welcome to Drinkosaurus, where we take ancient cocktail recipes into the modern era. My name's Matt, I'm your host, let's get drinking. In this episode, we're going to talk about Mezcal and how you can use it in some of the cocktail formulas that we've talked about previously. Mezcal is a spirit made from the agave plant, typically manufactured in Mexico. You may not have heard of Mezcal, but you've probably heard of its closely related boozy cousin, and that would be tequila. Tequila is a spirit similar to Mezcal in that it is made from the blue agave plant. In order to be considered tequila, not only does it have to be made out of the blue agave plant, but it has to be considered in a specific region of Mexico. Tequila comes in three main varieties. You have blanco tequila, reposado tequila, and añejo tequila. And they're basically different just because of how long they've been aged in barrels, where blanco tequila is not aged in barrels at all, reposado tequila is anywhere from 2 months to a year, and añejo tequila is anywhere from 1 to 3 years. However, we're not going to mix with tequila today, but I think it's a good comparison to understand mezcal a bit more. For this video, we're going to say goodbye to tequila. Goodbye! So let's now talk more about mezcal. The reason that I like mixing with mezcal more than tequila is mezcal has a much more bold flavor. Tequila has its place in drinks, but mezcal really defines the drinks that it's in. Just like any other spirits, mezcals come in a lot of different varieties. However, a common thread among them is they usually have a smoky, peppery, and vegetal taste. Another benefit for mixing with mezcal is it pairs with a variety of other alcohols. For example, mezcal pairs really well with anything herbal, such as green or yellow chartreuse. It also pairs with bitter liqueurs, such as amari. It pairs well with even sweet things like cherry liqueurs and chili liqueurs. And you can even mix it well with other spirits, such as rum. Now that we have some information about mezcal, let's start mixing with it. Today we'll be mixing with Vida mezcal, which is on the cheaper end of mezcals. It's super versatile and pairs well with a lot of ingredients. So we won't need these other two. In the first 3 videos of Drinkosaurus, we talked about different templates we're going to use. Today's cocktail is based off of the negroni template, and you can find a link to that wherever links are stored on YouTube at this point in time. To quickly review, the negroni is a 1-to-1-to-1 template, where it's 1 part spirit, 1 part modifier, usually a vermouth, and 1 part modifier. Today though, what we're going to do is we're going to split the 1 part modifier piece into 2 more parts. In the past, we've kind of split up the ratios to kind of even it out. What we're going to do here, though, is instead make, ready? A 1-to-1-to-1-to-1. So equal parts of all our ingredients, which makes it super easy to measure. However, let's talk about what those ingredients are going to be and how it'll make today's cocktail. Today's cocktail was actually made on accident. I was trying to make another cocktail called the Scorched Earth, which you can find the recipe online if you just search for it. But I accidentally added the wrong ingredient, but decided to go through with it anyway, and it made a delicious cocktail. And I call it another Scorcher, as from the Sears commercial from the 90s. Cool. The first ingredient in our cocktail will obviously be our mezcal. But the second ingredient will be Campari. Campari is a bitter liqueur, which pairs really well with the mezcal, which only makes sense to put it in the drink. Speaking of bitter, however, let's double up on the bitter and add Cynar. First off, if you want to look really impressive in a bar, call it Cynar by the proper name. Don't be one of those people that call it Cynar, even though that's really what it looks like. Cynar is a bitter Italian liqueur known as an Amaro, and it's made from artichokes, which for whatever reason works really well with the agave flavor in the mezcal. With the Cynar and the Campari in our drink, we have a nice bitter foundation. Let's add some herbal to it because, as I mentioned before, herbal flavors work really well with mezcal, and there's no better herbal flavor than Green Chartreuse. Green Chartreuse is a very popular mixing ingredient. One thing to keep in mind about it is about 117 proof, so it really kind of spikes up the alcohol content in our drink. Usually we want to balance out alcohol content, but really this drink is just made to be super boozy. So with the Green Chartreuse, we have our 1-to-1-to-1-to-1 ratio. The only issue is this drink at the moment lacks sweetness and it lacks acidity. Instead of adding some sweet ingredients and some lemon juice or lime juice to the drink, because the drink is already pretty complete, we're going to rely on the good old-fashioned cocktail seasonings known as bitters. Despite the name, cocktail bitters aren't always necessarily bitter. Today we're going to use 3, each with its own purpose. The first of the bitters we're using today are mole bitters, which pair really well with mezcal. They have a sweet cinnamony sort of flavor, which adds the sweetness that we want to the drink. In addition to that, we have some Aztec chocolate bitters. You're kind of seeing the Mexican theme here. Once again, it's another agent to add sweetness to our drink. Finally, we have some Habanero Hellfire Shrub bitters, which adds a really cool spicy element to the drink, but they also have a vinegar base, which adds acidity without us having to add any lemon or lime to the drink. Normally, you wouldn't use this many bitters in a drink, one will suffice, but in this case, we really need to get that sweet and acidic element into the drink. Now that we have all of our ingredients together, let's get to mixing. The first item we'll need is our mixing glass filled with ice. Since this drink doesn't contain any citrus juices or sugary syrups, there's no need for us to shake it. Next, we'll need a 3/4 ounce measuring cup. The reason that we're not using an ounce for each ingredient is 4 ounces of booze will probably exceed any cup. We're going to start by putting in our mezcal, and this will give us a nice smoky base to our cocktail. Next, we'll put in the Cynar. The Cynar will give us a bitter sort of taste, and there's like a little bit of sweetness to it, but most people don't associate artichokes with sweetness, so I don't know. Next, continuing the bitterness, we'll put in the Campari. This gives the drink a really nice color. Whenever Campari's in a drink, it looks really pretty. Finally, we'll add the Green Chartreuse. Keep in mind, there's no particular order that you actually have to mix these in. This is just the order I had laid out. Oh, I spilled. Can't waste any booze. Next, we have to put in our bitters. And given that bitters come in a variety of different containers, there's a strategy for each of them. So our chocolate bitters come in a typical bitters container where you kind of give it a couple dashes just like so. Our mole bitters and our habanero bitters come with a little medicine dropper. Some ingredients tell you how many drips to put in. That's a little tedious. And I would just go based on personal preference. I'll put about that much in. I don't know. Don't overthink it. What you do want to overthink is how much habanero bitters you put in, because this will spice up your drink in a very literal way. So just be a little bit conservative with those. Otherwise, you're going to have like a weird sensation of having an icy cold drink that's hot and spicy. Now that we have all of our ingredients in our mixing glass, we'll mix it for about 20 to 25 seconds. I recommend this one stirring it a little bit longer just to dilute it a little bit since it's so spirit forward. That should be good. It's good. In terms of glassware for this drink, I like using a cordial glass just because I like it. There's no real reason. If you find this drink a little bit too alcoholic, I would recommend a rocks glass with a nice big ice cube. That'll dilute it a little bit more. And that's why we don't put 4 ounces in there, because that's right to the top. The garnish for this cocktail is going to be a flaming orange peel. This provides an extra bit of smoky flavor to the drink. I'm so bad at this. There we go. If you're going to flame an orange peel, make sure you're not refrigerating the orange. The effect works better if it's been left out. Here we go. Ooh, wow, fancy. Oh. So this is mostly an aromatic sort of feature to it, and it'll make you look twice as fancy as any other methods. So there we go. Let's give it a taste. So immediately, the smokiness of the mezcal is the first thing that you taste on the palate. After that comes in the wave of bitterness and herbal pieces from our other 3 ingredients. The coolest thing about it is, thanks to our bitters, the aftertaste is a little bit sweet. So it takes you through the smoky to bitter to sweet, making it a really complex cocktail. Despite most of the ingredients being very spirit heavy, It is potent, but it doesn't feel overwhelming at all. Most of the ingredients are pretty light, so it doesn't have that heaviness that you sometimes get with really boozy cocktails. Love it. And that's how you make
another Scorcher.
Cool. Drinkosaurus has been a production of Little Giant Monsters. If you would like to see other projects we're working on, check us out at littlegiantmonsters.com. We're also on various social media platforms, which you can find in the description. And Little Giant Monsters now has a Patreon, and we would really appreciate your support with the various projects we work on. If you have any questions about spirits, cocktails, how to make them, or what ingredients to use, let me know in the comments, and I would be happy to make a video based on your requests. That's all for today's episode. Have fun creating, and drink responsibly. Bye. I cannot live another day without air conditioning.
Says tomorrow's gonna be hotter.
Hotter? Like yesterday. Yesterday you said you'd call Sears. I'll call today.
You call now.
I'll call now.
Cool.